to order the Personnel Policy Curriculum Committee meeting, which was duly noticed on September 6, 2024, through posting and notification of the press in accordance with Wisconsin 19.84. Notice is hereby given that school board members who are not members of this committee may attend this meeting so as to constitute a quorum of the Board of Education. Any such member attendance will be for information gathering only and will not result in direct decision-making by Board of Education at the committee meeting. I have a safety message to share. This is brief. I looked up a couple of things for September, and one of the things that was mentioned is never leave burning candles unattended. I think we know this, but sometimes it's kind of nice to have a candle, but they're just really dangerous, and I've gotten very forgetful. So I feel like switching over your candles to battery operated, they look really real, and if you forget them on, it's really no big deal. And they have taper candles now, all different kinds of battery operated that you can have the same look but not fear of burning your house down. One other thing I wanted to share is share the road with harvesting equipment in rural areas. And of course our city isn't necessarily one, but if you leave Janesville, and sometimes even in Janesville, there you will see farming equipment on the roads, and they can cause accidents sometimes, especially if you're coming up on a hill and you don't see them. So you just need to give caution to other things you may see, pulling in and out of fields or driveways. So just keep that in mind for this particular season. Moving on, I need a motion to adopt the September 9th, 2024 agenda as presented.
So moved.
Any questions?
Nope.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. And so now we are going to move to the August Professional Development and New Teacher Onboarding Process update by Dr. Allison DeGraff.
All right, good afternoon, and I'd like to share a little bit of information with you about our recent August professional development, learning opportunities, and then a little bit about new staff orientation. The August professional development and new staff orientation aligns with our new strategic plan and priority areas of student and staff excellence. As we provide professional development and training for our teachers as well. It helps them grow as educators, improve instructional practices, and understand the needs of our students in order to improve our achievement and outcomes. So as we think about our August professional development, we provide professional development throughout the year, but in August specifically, we have dedicated days that are focused on professional learning for our staff. We also try to balance that with work time as well within the classroom. And that August professional development planning process begins, back in February or March. And it's a collaborative process, and all of the departments that are listed there as well provide support and training throughout those weeks in August. So it's a collective effort of many directors and coordinators within those departments. As we think about the district and building professional development days, a little bit about kind of the overall district welcome back, and then I want to talk a little bit about elementary, middle, and high school. And then also how we balance that work time and Ready, Set, Goal conferences. So as you know, that first welcome back, that first day on Wednesday, August 21st, even prior to that, our superintendent and the directors meet with our principals, and we talk about what is the district goals this year and the vision. So then as building principals have their welcome back meeting with all of their staff, they're ensuring that they're aligning their building goals with what Mark will talk about in the afternoon as far as our district goals. And so we know that's a very exciting day. There's a lot of energy in the room. We get to highlight some of our fine arts programs, like our summer musical and the band as well. And then we get to hear about that district vision for the year. And we had a student, again, that really supported that district vision and did a great job speaking with our staff. And so that's really the key kickoff of that week of professional development for all of our staff. And then again, as I mentioned, we make sure that we provide work days for teachers. We know they need that time in their classroom. And then we also want to ensure that we have that freshman orientation, Ready, Set, Goal conferences, and meet and greet, so that all students and families have an opportunity to be in the building, meet their teachers, and start to feel comfortable with the start of the school year. So with our professional development too, we'll talk specifically in a minute at elementary and secondary levels around what that professional development look like. But we want to ensure that we provide professional development not just for specific classroom or content area teachers, but we look at specific professional development for art, music, and phy-ed, for our student services staff with school psychologists, social workers. Kim also plans specific special education training. Julie DeCook works with EL as well. And then we also have non-certified staff training too. So our pairs receive some training, or food service or custodial as well. So some of, not everything is listed on there. You have, as a handout today, it's probably a 10-page document that puts together all of the pieces of professional development, and it's kind of like putting together pieces of a puzzle. So as we think about what did we focus on for elementary professional development, and with our elementary professional development, one of the areas that we worked on this summer with elementary teachers is we've been working on our reading and math assessments, our common assessments. And so we brought in teacher volunteers. They volunteered, but they were paid this summer. And they took a deep dive into the assessments, and they shared their feedback on what they thought maybe needed to be some updates and changes. And then we looked at how well are they aligned to the forward exam, so that we're ensuring our kids get an experience and exposure to the same standards on the forward. Then we also worked with those grade level teachers on creating a pacing guide in reading, math, social studies, and science. So we've always had pacing, but we put it in one district document, so we ensure that all 12 elementary schools know kind of what the expectation is and where they should be in the curriculum throughout the year. Of course, we help them understand they have to be responsive to student needs as well, so it's not going to align perfectly. But as we know, students move from school to school. It's important that they're not too far behind or ahead of where they were in other schools in their curriculum as well, to continue to help support their learning. We also have moved from iPads to Chromebooks. So we leased new Chromebooks this year, and so staff had training before the students came in on how to use those new devices. And K1 specifically had tablets, so they're similar to the iPad as well. As you know, artificial intelligence is just growing leaps and bounds, and so it was important that we take time at the elementary and secondary level to do some training. So how do we give some freedom within fences around that? Because, what are those vetted AI tools that will help teachers within their job to be more efficient and support student achievement? And what are some of those tools we want to stay away from that maybe are really not very aligned with our curriculum and resources? And then what tools might even be helpful to students? But again, we have to be very careful with that as well. Then, of course, all of our elementary teachers have been trained in the science of reading. I should say we have one more cohort this year, but we have about 180 trained. So I met with the coordinator for the state training, and we looked at where are teacher gaps in the training. So what areas did they not do well in the training? And so then I coordinated with our principals, and we provided a training, and they really needed more practice on actually decoding and encoding work. So they spent some more time in training around that. The other area when we look at our data is in forward, that we see a drop in our data from 5th to 6th grade in ELA and math. We see that same drop again this year a little bit. And so we brought together all of our 5th grade teachers in the district and all of our 6th grade ELA and math teachers. And they looked at how do we provide instruction in literacy and math in 5th grade and 6th grade and what's different. We looked at, you know, what are our students expected to do at the end of 5th grade and the beginning of 6th grade, and what are those gaps, and how do we help address those? There was a very positive response from this as well, and so they want to continue to meet, and they're very passionate about helping try to close this gap, and they want to come back and share each other's actual resources too. And so the last part of the training that we had was mentoring. And so our trained mentors, we met with them as well and talked about here are tools and resources that may be helpful to you, and here are the expectations for working with your mentees throughout the year. So that's kind of a high-level overview of what our elementary staff focused on during professional development. And you'll see a lot of similar things happening at the secondary level. So again, they did a lot of work around their English and math assessments as well, and some pacing in their curriculum. Also, just like we had a 5th and 6th grade transition meeting, we did 8th and 9th. That's another area where we see our drop in data, and our 8th and 9th grade teachers also had a really great feedback and response and want to continue to meet and support that transition for our students. Chris, again, you know, continued to take another group for training on AVID this summer. So the teachers that were trained this summer brought back, again, additional strategies to continue to build and train the secondary staff. They also had a secondary version of artificial intelligence training, and then we also worked with the secondary mentors as well to provide tools and resources for working with their mentees. So really, that's an overview of what we did at the elementary and secondary level during our August professional development, as well as what were some of those other things for our non-certified staff as well, where we provided training. So, yeah, if you have any other questions or feedback.
Just one question, the mentoring program. So I know Mr. Bruckman said he's mentoring so he's a retired employee.
Yes.
So what is that pool of mentors? I love it. Just curious, like how many mentors do we have, and is it for new teachers or ones that might need a little bit more development?
The focus is on new teachers, but their first 2 years. And yes, thank you for mentioning that. What's been really exciting is it is very intensive, and so it's really hard to balance that when you're teaching and working with a mentee. So we've had a lot of retired teachers reach out, and so they're much more flexible. So I was very excited. We had a middle school ELA teacher that retired and a middle school math teacher that retired that are going to come in and do mentoring and training. We know we've had a lot of turnover in math too, so really exciting that, you know, we have high quality expert math teacher that just left the classroom and is going to be supporting some of those new teachers. So
how is the transition to complying with the requirements of Act 20 going?
overall, it's going well. As I mentioned, we probably have about 80% of the staff trained, and we'll probably have, you know, hopefully about 95% trained by the end of the year. I think overall, you know, as far as the district making sure we're in compliance with Act 20, I feel that, you know, that's going really well. You know, we do have a little bit, there are some teachers that feel the training's very extensive, which I wouldn't disagree with, and so, you know, trying to help them understand how we can help them manage, and of course, if there's certain staff situations where they might have, you know, a personal situation that makes it difficult to complete the training, that we work with them on an individual basis. But overall, it's going well, and so we just have kind of a smaller group we're continuing to work with and help them understand why this is important for all of us to have this training.
I, over the summer, saw a teacher who had just completed the training, and she was very excited about it. She said she complained a lot during the process because it was really challenging and very rigorous, but said, oh my gosh, it's amazing, and how much she wishes that she'd had these tools long before. So I think that's really valuable to hear, and this is a veteran teacher who could maybe fit into you might assume a person, like, I'm done with training. Sometimes people who are really experienced are not interested in more training, but this is someone who's veteran teacher and still excited about this, what they're learning, and seeing the application being really beneficial to our learners. So that was great to hear that. And I chuckled about I complained all the time. So, yeah, so thank you for going over the orientation, all the things that you have done. I know it's a lot of work by a whole team, and I continuously say each year how impressive it is that someone can put all this together. And a lot of times, I would imagine it might be a lot of thankless work because not all people are excited about training. And because, as we educators know, you just want to do your stuff in your classroom and be left alone. But at the same time, the reason why we have these trainings is because the district saw a need at some point because there was not enough information or education being provided to our employees, so we needed to bridge those gaps. So that's why we have all of these things. And I think you do, I'm always impressed every year how you're always reflecting on what you're hearing from the staff, what you need to do more of, what maybe you need to back off on. So I really want to thank you. If you haven't been thanked, all the people working on it, that I am so grateful. I taught in schools where I received virtually no training, and I just think what a difference it makes for new employees to go somewhere, I would imagine, and feel, boy, this district's really investing in me and giving me the tools I need to be successful. So I think that's fantastic. Thank you.
Yes, like you said, it's always never enough work time, so gotta keep working on that, so. I don't know if I should walk away and come back. Restart. If you, oh, whoops, that's, it's still on the same one. Yeah.
She just need to keep going.
I did this so you wouldn't have to switch.
There we go. Perfect.
There we go. So. All right, so new staff orientation to kind of give you an overview of what our new staff orientation involves and that onboarding process. So August 21st is the first day that all staff are back. August 14th, 1 week prior, is when new staff orientation starts in the onboarding process. And of course, we feel the onboarding and training and support is very important. We want our new staff to feel welcomed, and we want them to feel supported and engaged. And we also know that onboarding is one of the ways that we know supports continued teacher and staff retention when they feel welcomed and engaged as well. And at the new teacher orientation, I always like to share with them that I sat in their same seat over 30 years ago and moved here from Iowa, thinking I would not stay and move closer to family, but that I really want them to know that I've stayed because this district has offered me, whether I'm in a classroom position, opportunities for professional growth, or whether I wanted to grow into other positions, that this district is very open to that and offers a lot of opportunities, as well as we have a great community that's very supportive of us. So I think it's, and I've shared too that the people sitting next to me are still some of my closest friends within this district. So this day is an important day to them. And if they look around, these might be the people they're sitting next to and connected with, 30 years from now as well. So I think it's really important that we provide this opportunity for our new teachers. Also, just a little bit about, again, how do we start preparing for this? Back in March and April, our Learning and Innovation Department creates a flyer laying out what that week of new staff orientation and onboarding will look like, so they know the day they're hired that they need to be back a week early and what that's going to look like. So Scott and the HR team, put that into every hiring packet once we start hiring for the next school year. So it's nice, so people need to plan ahead, and if they're working in other jobs over the summer, they know when they need, to be prepared to start working in our district as well. We spend time, a full day with learning and innovation, and I'll talk about that as well. And then we plan some other days outside of that, about the bus tour, so that's a way to connect them to the community. And then connected with the bus tour is time with HR and benefit sharing information as well. So with the new staff orientation, the first day is August 14th, as I mentioned, a week ahead of time, and that's out at Parker, so all staff are there that first day. Our superintendent's there welcoming all of our new staff as well. We also set them at tables grouped, so if you're a new Adams teacher, you're with all the Adams teachers or Parker teachers, so they start to see who are the other new teachers in their building they can connect with. We also have the principal attend that morning so that they can sit with their new staff and start building that connection as well. And then they get to hear from Mark about the district vision and goals as we get started. He also, kind of lays that foundation, and Chris was there, a part of that as well too, about professional learning communities. And our district believes that, we may be strong alone, but we're stronger together. So we really value teacher collaboration, and as a way to continue to improve ourselves as well as support student achievement. Then also within some of the handouts you have the flyer that I talked about. You also have the August 14th day that the Learning and Innovation provides as professional development. And so what are some things that we do with the new staff on that professional development day? And so you can see a breakdown of some different sessions around equity, distribution of devices, and social emotional learning. So when we talk about the equity piece, we're talking about what we share with them is here are the demographics of the school district of Janesville. Over 30% of our students are students of color. 56% are students on free and reduced lunch. And that we know that equity is really about making sure all students have access to the tools and resources they need at the time in their learning, regardless of their disability or race or economic status. So we talk about that, and we really lay a foundation for, you need to build community in your classroom, and so part of that is making all kids feel welcome. It's important that they know you as a person to feel connected, and we share strategies like interest inventories. So when you find out what students like, how do you make connections all year long to that student based on what you know their interests are? So it's really about building community, and we talk about really the importance of being very clear with your expectations from day one in order to create community and expectations for successful learning. We have the JEA there that day. They provide lunch and talk with them. Again, as I mentioned, they all get their teaching device, and we teach them how to navigate to get to their curriculum resources as well. And then with social emotional learning, so trying to think of that whole child, student services staff really talk about mental health issues in our district, and they talk about challenging behaviors and ways for de-escalation with students. So we really feel that the components of that day really help them think about who we are as a district, and thinking about not just academically what the needs are, but socially, emotionally as well. So that's been very successful, and I can share some of the data at the end about that as well. Then curriculum onboarding, again, we tap into the expertise of our teachers. So if I'm a second grade teacher, I worked with second grade teachers in our district to develop a training for new teachers to teach them how to teach with wonders or bridges. And secondary does that as well. So how do I teach with EdGems and math? We feel it's important that new teachers hear from other teachers, how do I navigate the resource and help me plan the first week of school? So that comes later in the week when they meet with grade level teachers and they train them on the resource. And then we have a building mentoring day where in the morning they meet with the principal, they talk about expectations for the building, policies, procedures. They spend the rest of the day with their mentor, helping them set up their classroom, helping them learn what routines they need to get ready for Ready, Set, Goal conferences and start planning for the first week of school. So we really feel like that's a comprehensive week to onboard our teachers and help them be prepared for the first day of school with the students in front of them. So, we did a survey at the end of the day on August 14th as well. And one of the interesting pieces of data, when we think about, we had about 80 new staff there. And the survey asked, how many years of experience do we have? So 40% of our teachers there are going to be first-year teachers, but 32% had over 10 years experience. So it's nice to know that, there's a balance of brand-new teachers, but some really experienced teachers, and then in between there are the, 2 to 9 years as well experience. So, and also at the end of the day, again, as I mentioned, with the onboarding process, we want them to feel welcomed and valued. So we asked that question at the end of the day, and 97% of them said they felt welcomed and valued to our district. So, we really want to focus on keeping them here and continuing to build and grow their capacity as teachers in our district. So we hope that, again, we want to continue to take feedback and get better and better at this onboarding process. So thank you.
Was there any feedback from JEA on the schedule or the pace of the coming back so that early? I know they've given feedback in prior years that they felt like it was too much or.
I haven't had specifically anybody from JEA reach out.
Okay.
We had a principal meeting on Thursday. They asked for a little feedback, and so some of them said more work time. To try to continue to keep that as a balance.
Because is this also like the first year we've shuffled some PD took it away from August and put it into the year, right?
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was feedback from, I think, last year, then that might be what I was thinking.
Yes.
Okay,
So
okay.
they'll have
Perfect.
PD
Good.
throughout the year too, and so we had less days at the start of the
Great.
school year than we have in the past.
Okay,
and-
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks again, a continuation of all the work that you put through. It's just really valuable. Makes a big difference.
Okay.
And for the 2 point whatever %, maybe they just hit the wrong button.
Right, yeah, we don't know. All right, thanks.
All right, moving on to staff engagement survey update, Mark Holzman and Scott Garner.
Let's see. There we go. Okay. So, welcome. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. I know it's a great night, beautiful weather. We appreciate you being here. So, as you're very aware, the School District of Janesville has a history of doing staff engagement surveys. Back in 2007, we kind of started doing that, partnering with Studer Education. We did that till about 2020, 21, 22, when we stopped. After that, we didn't do surveys, but last year, the directors and Mr. Holzman here decided to give the teachers a voice, not just teachers, the staff a voice, and we created our own staff engagement survey using Qualtrics. Qualtrics is a survey data tool, essentially, that in collaboration with CISA 6, we created the survey questions, and they helped us kind of formulate the data, make sure it's accurate, make sure that the questions are sustainable in terms of getting raw data from them. So as we did that, that process took a while, but we did give the survey in April 8th through April 22nd. Timing is everything whenever we do a survey, and no time is a good time, right? So we always try to do the best we can. The biggest rule in survey taking is make sure you give it at the same time every year. Ultimately, that's what we're looking for. So this is our kind of our start, right? This is our marker here. Between April 8th and April 22nd every year, around that time, we're going to plan to give future surveys so we can get similar data points. For this year, we had 1,072 respondents. 1,054 actually completed the survey. We did put in the survey that even if you didn't finish the survey, we wanted that feedback. So some people may have gotten started, they got distracted by something, and it logged them out and they didn't get back to it. But at least we collected that data regardless, so that feedback is important. The other biggest piece here is that employee confidentiality is very, how do I say, it's a necessity, essentially. So we want to make sure our employees felt safe, providing a voice to their concerns or problems or even celebrations with the district. The important piece there is that we weren't able to track individual responses to an individual, if that makes sense. We didn't collect IP addresses. We didn't have anything on camera or anything like that, as some people think there's a conspiracy theory out there. That is not the case. Everything is confidential. We did analyze comments. One tricky thing with comments in a survey is that we tend to we ignore the positive and we tend to focus in on the negative. And so essentially when Superintendent Holzman and I got together, we looked at those and we talked about it at directors. How effective or how much do we want to look at the comments? Because sometimes the comments are made by individuals. So we really wanted to take those comments and group them into themes. And that's what we did this year. We looked at themes for celebrations and themes for opportunities for growth. And you'll see that in a little bit. We used a 5-point scale, and I think Mark has a story about the scale here in a little bit about what it takes to get a 4 and what it takes to get a 3 or what it takes to get a 5. Obviously, we know if you get a 5, that's a perfect score. So that's what our ultimate goal is. We did a 5-point scale. 5 is strongly agree, 4 is agree, 3 is neutral, 2 is disagree, and as you can see, 1 is strongly agree. This is just a quick breakdown of the staff. We had 63, almost 64% of our certified staff, which includes teachers, counselors, social workers, et cetera, complete the survey. We had another 32.2%, or 339 staff who are not certified, take the survey, participate, and then 4%-ish of the administrative group take the survey. So a lot of respondents, great feedback. We have approximately 1,500 employees. That includes subs and coaches who wouldn't necessarily get the survey anyways. So this is a good response rate. So let's take a look at district celebrations. Hopefully you can see those. But we decided to take the questions straight from the survey, and these are our results. I understand that my work directly contributes to the overall success of the district. You can see is our highest scoring. So people are seeing a connection between the work they do every day and the success of the school district. That's our highest one. That's a great one to have. 4.6. The work I clearly understand what is expected of me. Again, 4.5, 4.4. My principal and supervisor encourages and supports collaboration within the department and school. That is extremely important. We need to have managers and administrators that will encourage and support collaboration because it takes a village to get our students successful. My teammates have my back. Again, we wanted to see what the unity looks like here in Janesville, whether that's at Washington or Craig or wherever you're at. Your peers or colleagues that you work with, do you feel like you're connected to them? And that's ultimately what that question is asking. And then I feel comfortable reporting safety concerns no matter how small. This one specifically for me was very important. I want to make sure people know that they have a route to report something they feel is unsafe, whether that's colleague-to-colleague issue or if that's a student-parent issue, you name it. We need to have venues or avenues for people to be able to report that. It sounds like people are feeling safe that way. And then finally, my work gives me a feeling of personal accomplishment. That's another, so people are feeling good about the school district of Janesville and the work they're doing in there. Questions on the celebrations? I kind of went over them fast, but you can read the screen, so. All right, these are the themes. So what we did is, basically it's a word cloud. And in there you can see that student and staff are the biggest mentioned terms, the most mentioned terms in the survey comments. What that tells us then, obviously, we have a student-centered focus from our staff, and we also have staff who are focused on themselves or others as a school district and feel like that needs to be celebrated. So within the comments that the directors can see, we saw a lot of student and staff-related comments for celebration. We're going to call these district opportunities. These are opportunities for growth in the district, things that we need to probably pay attention to and or do some work on or a little bit more research into, for example. I'm given the opportunity to be involved with decisions affecting me. That is, if you look at our Studer surveys from years ago, from 2007 on, this is probably one of the lowest questions that over time historically we get. And typically it's because people want to have input into a decision. There's a difference between input and actually making a decision. And sometimes people will say, hey, I gave you my input. Well, the decision wasn't what their input was, but they were allowed to have that feedback. And so some people see this question as, well, you didn't decide what I wanted. So that could be part of it, but then we do need to look at the opportunity to make sure that we include everyone to have some input on decisions. For example, Dr. DeGraff and the L&I teams work on the calendar, getting that committee together. They all had input in there, and not everyone agreed on the decisions that were made, but they had the opportunity to voice. So those are things that we're really looking to do. I'm included and valued as a contributor to the school's mission and culture. As we look at our strategic plan and the schools look at their individual, now we're transitioning to Sept plans, school improvement plans. As they look at those, this is an ultimate opportunity for our principals and administrators to get our teachers involved in that planning process and goal setting. I'm comfortable with voicing my ideas and opinions even if they're different. So this is different than I feel safe reporting something that might be of concern. This is different. This is when you're in a group, of course, and you have a different idea than maybe the 5 other people in the room. Do you feel comfortable voicing that? That's not easy for a lot of people, so I would suspect that this is going to be a lower question no matter what, but it's a 3.8. And 3.8 still, this is where Mark can chime in, isn't that bad. It's still low, but it's not as low as it could be, if I may add that. I receive recognition from my principal and supervisor for excellent work. Recognition is always perceived by the individual. So the principal may recognize someone by highlighting the work they're doing with the team, but they may not see that as recognition so much as just, hey, we did this. It could be a card. It's very individual in terms of what it means to be recognized by someone. So again, 3.8 isn't bad. 3.8 is still a very good score. Our department or school regularly celebrates our successes. This is something in education we need to do more of, and I know our director team is pushing this more and more. We really do need to celebrate our successes. Typically when we see that, we don't want to celebrate our successes. We want to look at what's going wrong so we can fix it. And we don't take enough time to celebrate those successes. So, and then I receive information from the district level that is timely and relevant. Finally, that is communication is an area that we constantly are working on, and I know that Patrick and his team are working on newsletters on a regular basis, and that does cascade down to the building levels. We see a lot of the building individual newsletters. Whenever we send out emails or information from the director team, we see a lot of those snippets in the newsletters for staff to read. So we do our best to communicate as accurately and as much as possible on a regular basis, including social media. So those are our important pieces. But I think Mr. Holzman wanted to talk a little bit about how it looks to get a 3.4 or 3.8 out of perhaps 10 survey takers.
Yeah, I think I'd make a real quick point in math and then an opportunity to kind of share a couple of our goals and what we're doing with opportunities. So if you look at a 5-point as the highest and 1 point as the lowest, and you take 10 individuals, in order to get a 3.8, that would mean that 8 people said that I agree, and 2 people said I disagree. And that if you take up those 8, you'd get 4, in that case, you'd get 38 points, because that would be 38 out of 50, because 50 is perfect. And so when we first got the feedback back, the first comment we said is, Scott, you gotta go check this out, this can't be right. Because our scores were really high. We were like, oh, really? Because again, if we say 4.6, what that means is that most of the people said 5.0, and only a few people said 4.0, right? Like agree, most people said strongly agree in order to get to that part. And because we had 1,000 people, you know that the data is relatively consistent, right? It's not, if we had 300, we'd say, well, maybe there's some bit skewed. So that would be the first piece. I would say absolutely, we want to continue to celebrate, got to find ways to celebrate every day. The other thing is that I would say is when we talk about I am given the opportunity to be involved in decisions that affect me, we have consciously at a district level thought about ways that we can involve people, and when we say people, all of our employees in the decision-making or at least communication process. Scott brought up an idea about the calendar. This year we've got a committee for health insurance. We continue to try to find opportunities, and we're growing with our JEA and the number of times we're meeting. Those are purposeful because we want to get feedback, and we know that feedback helps us think a little bit differently about what we're doing, and it also allows people to be messengers throughout. So it is interesting when you look at the data and you say, what is a 3.8 or 3.4? We have areas to grow, we know that. But the majority of the people in that are still saying, I agree, even in a 3.8. And if we looked at, where would we really be in trouble if we were below a 3? That would mean that more people disagreed than agreed. But our lowest score in every single category was 3.4. Doesn't mean that we can't grow, but we had a lot of positive feedback. So I think that's good for us to know. Sometimes we don't always take time to get the celebrations there. In order to get a 4.6, you out of 10 people, that would mean that 6 of them said strongly agree, and 4 of them said agree, and that's a pretty strong indication for 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So, just wonder, when we were doing the math, I wanted to help myself understand that, so.
And for the record, I did go back and we did verify, in fact, with, that the data was true. It was actually true, yeah. They laughed at us a little bit too. I didn't tell Mark that, but, no, it's all true, all good stuff. But again, good feedback and a good start for our survey, going back at it here after about 3 years. Another big piece then is, let's see, am I going the wrong way? Oh, yep, there we go. The biggest thing then with a survey is you can take the survey, get the feedback, and then the biggest question is, what are we gonna do with it, right? You have to do something with it. We've asked people to take time out of their days to do this. So what we've done is we presented this to our building principals last spring. We gave them a template to use this year for the back-to-school presentations that each building does. They've shared these individual building results with their staff or departments. What they're planning to do at the building level, and I'll let you guys speak up to that if it's different, but they're planning with their SIP teams to incorporate the opportunities for growth within their plans and continue to reinforce or enforce the things that they're doing well within those SIP plans. So we'll incorporate those. At the district level, we're doing the same thing as part of the strategic plan. In that process, we're working to create those action steps and move those into our current district plan. The next survey then will be April of 2025, and hopefully we'll have the same engagement and better results. That's our hope. Do you have any questions?
Was it those 12 questions that you covered, or were there others and then you just found a few, the 12 to highlight?
Those, we highlighted the highest and the lowest scores, so
Okay.
there were a lot more questions
There were a
than
lot
that.
more, okay.
Yes.
So the question I have is around the action plan. So actually, I just had to go through this for my works engagement survey, and they HR made a template, and you have the action plan, the owner, the champion, what are you gonna do? And then we have to check in with the executives quarterly. So is it like gonna be done in the principal meetings, or when are those is there an action plan template? And then B, what are the checkpoints for the action plan progress?
So I would lean on our team here, but essentially, our principals will go back, present the data, they take those pieces, and they each have a building SIP team. And that SIP team then will sort through the data from this engagement survey, as well as achievement data, because it's not just survey data as well, and incorporate those goals based on the opportunities for growth within this survey. They'll work on the goals for that school improvement plan as well. So
So it'll be
then,
part of the SIP,
it'll be part of the SIP.
and then the
yes.
SIP is reported out on with
On a
progress?
regular basis with with Allison
Okay.
and Chris.
I think if I could just add to, so this fall, or I guess summer, end of the summer, we gave them the template. The template had all the district data, and then the building had their own data. So there's 20 different feedbacks that the buildings are getting, because their data is a little bit different. So what's happening at Wilson might be a little bit different than happened at Franklin, in terms of how their staff, because we could sort the data by building
Right.
rather than by district. So each of them might be a little bit different, and we wanted them to make sure that they were making accommodations. Where am I compared to the district? That's the first one. And then what are some things that we need to do differently internally in order to help support that? In some cases, it's hard to create a concrete action plan when you talk about, I am included and valued as a contributor to the school's mission and culture. So we want to make sure that they know that that's a piece, and then, so how do we go about doing that? But again, when we talk about engagement, it's in a person's opinion, and so sometimes we're gonna go hard and make sure that we provide some outcomes, but we won't know until, I guess, April of 2025 if we actually accomplish that. As opposed to when we're doing other data points, we have measured checks along the way, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No, I hear you, and even my engagement survey action plan has hard to measure things in there. I have the communication one, mine is, I don't feel like I'm getting communicated with, or whichever.
Right.
So, but I still have to come up with there was still a template that I had to fill out. I have to report it quarterly to the executives. Here, I came up with ideas, all right, I've got whiteboard, I've got my nightly emails I do of our reports, and I think there's still action steps, but I just feel like this is exactly what I just finished last Friday. But I still think there's opportunity for a common templated action plan template that they then obviously report up to Allison on progress, because
Yeah.
if you don't write it down and hold yourself accountable and report to somebody about it, what gets measured gets,
Yeah, paid attention.
yeah.
And part of that is, we did, years ago, as you might recall, we did have those detailed action plans specifically for the survey results. At this point, our first stab at it on our own with Qualtrics, working with this, we don't have that detailed communication action plan template, but we do work through it we wanted to integrate it more into our school improvement and our strategic plans, so.
Thanks for providing this info, and as you were going through, I was thinking, oh, it'd be really great if it was broken down by school, and it was, we just didn't have that. But I think that's super valuable, because a principal at a school looking at the overall district info isn't gonna get the same picture of their culture that they would it's a nice comparison, I think.
Right.
To be able to look at what does your school say versus what does the overall district, because if there are glaring differences, then you know something is askew there, right?
Yes.
So I'm really glad to know that that part was factored in. So, and, you know, of course, I'd be curious to see what some of those are, just to see, but, it's not like you're gonna release all those things. But, anyway, thank you. This is really important. I had heard in our staff community, we haven't had a survey, you know, this was previous, and so they missed that. And just having it is one way that they can feel that their, you know, feedback is valuable,
Right.
so.
They need a voice.
Yeah, and so this is one way that we're already working, by doing this, you are already helping bridge that gap. So thank you, and thanks for sharing this out.
We continue to have conversations about what's next, which would likely mean, our families, parents, and students. And so part of that is just like what questions we wanna ask and what's the information we wanna get back so we can get feedback and grow. So
Yeah,
that's
and
coming this year.
That's good, because I know that we did have that before, but, yeah, that would be, and they were always done at conferences, because that's when you get at least at elementary, the vast majority of those people there to be asked, but, thank you for thinking about that other community group too. All right, so we are moving on, and announcements, updates, well, we have our board meeting tomorrow, and our agenda setting session is next week, Monday, so if there's anything that you're needing us to get on that, let me know. And then our next PPC meeting is the first Monday in October, the 7th. Okay, so, same time, same place, October 7th. Thank you, adjourned.